The modern garden is often a noisy place. It is a place of plastic hoses, buzzing electric pumps, and complex timers that fail the moment you leave for a weekend. We have been convinced that advanced means mechanical. We spend our golden years dragging heavy coils of rubber across the lawn, battling leaks, and lifting heavy watering cans that strain the very marrow of our bones. But beneath the soil of history lies a quieter, more elegant truth. For thousands of years, civilizations flourished in the most arid regions of the world without a single watt of electricity or a plastic valve. They used the laws of physics, gravity, capillary action, and porosity to create gardens that breathed and drank in perfect silence. Today, we are reclaiming this lost heritage. We are going back to the earth to find a way to garden that is passive, permanent, and profoundly kind to the aging body. If you are tired of being a servant to your garden's thirst, it is time to look at the systems we have forgotten. System 1. The Oya, the breathing earth, the philosophy of the porous pot. Imagine a vessel of unglazed clay. It is humble, made of nothing but earth and fire. In northern Africa, ancient China, and the pre-Columbian Americas, this vessel was known as the Oya. It is, perhaps, the most efficient irrigation system ever devised by human intelligence. The brilliance of the Oya lies in its biomimicry. It does not force water into the soil like a sprinkler. It offers water to the soil. When you bury an Oya in your garden bed, leaving only its narrow neck above the surface, you are installing a lung. Because the clay is unglazed and fired at a low temperature, it remains porous. It is filled with millions of microscopic channels. The physics of tension, a dialogue between clay and root. Here is where the magic happens, a process known as soil moisture tension. When the soil around the Oya is moist, the water stays inside the jar. There is no waste. But as the plants drink and the soil dries, a vacuum-like tension is created. This tension literally pulls water through the clay walls. This is a responsive system. On a scorching July afternoon in Provence, or a dry spell in Kent, the Oya releases more water. On a humid, cool morning, it releases almost none. The plant becomes the master of its own hydration. Roots do not spread out searching for moisture. They wrap themselves around the cool, damp clay of the Oya in a gentle embrace. They drink exactly what they need, exactly when they need it. The senior advantage, ending the watering penance. For the gardener over 60, the Oya is a medical intervention. Think of the traditional morning routine, lifting a 10-kilogram watering can, bending at the waist to pour, and repeating this 40 times. This is a recipe for lumbar shear and rotator cuff inflammation. With the Oya, you fill the vessel once every 5 to 7 days. That is all. You stand upright, you pour water into a wide neck at waist height, and you walk away. Because the water is delivered underground, there is zero evaporation. In the heat of a European summer, 50% of the water from a hose evaporates before it ever reaches the roots. With an Oya, every drop is utilized. Furthermore, because the surface soil stays dry, weed seeds, which need surface moisture to germinate, simply never stand a chance. You have eliminated 70% of your watering labor and 90% of your weeding labor in a single stroke of ancient genius. The science of pore velocity and soil texture. To truly understand the Oya, we must look at the microscopic level. The clay vessel acts as a semi-permeable membrane. When we talk about soil moisture tension, we are talking about a physical tug-of-war. In a traditional garden, you pour water on the surface, and it rushes down through the large pores of the soil, a process called macropore flow. This often bypasses the roots entirely and leaches nutrients deep into the subsoil, where no plant can reach them. The Oya, however, utilizes micropore flow. Because the water seeps out at a rate measured in milliliters per hour, the soil has time to absorb it through capillary action in all directions, not just downwards, but sideways, and even upwards. This creates a spherical plume of moisture. Within this plume, the soil biology changes. Beneficial bacteria and mycorrhizal fungi thrive in this constant, stable humidity. They don't have to go into dormancy during a drought because the Oya provides a permanent oasis. For the senior gardener, this means your soil becomes more fertile on its own. You are no longer just a water carrier. You are an ecosystem manager. You are fostering a subterranean civilization that works 24 hours a day to keep your plants healthy, all because you chose a pot of clay over a plastic hose. The thermal buffer, protecting roots from heat stress. There is another forgotten benefit to the Oya: temperature regulation. In the height of a European heat wave, the surface of the soil can reach temperatures of 40 or 50 degrees Celsius. This literally cooks the delicate feeder roots of your vegetables. But water inside a buried clay pot remains remarkably cool due to evaporative cooling. As a tiny amount of water evaporates through the neck of the Oya, it draws heat away from the vessel. The Oya acts as a heat sink, creating a cool zone in the root bucket. Your plants aren't just hydrated, they are air-conditioned. This prevents bolting, the process where lettuce or spinach turns bitter and goes to seed prematurely due to heat stress. By installing Oyas, you are extending your harvest window by weeks, if not months. System 2. The wick, the invisible river. The magic of capillary action. If the Oya is the lung of the garden, the wick is its circulatory system. Wick irrigation relies on a phenomenon we all learned in school but rarely apply in the garden: capillary action. It is the same force that allows a paper towel to soak up a spill or a candle to draw wax up to its flame. The system is disarmingly simple. It requires a reservoir, perhaps a recycled barrel or a beautiful stone trough, and a length of absorbent material, such as a braided cotton rope or a specialized fiberglass wick. One end sits in the water. The other is buried deep within the root zone of your plants. Designing the gravity-free flow. The beauty of the wick is that it defies gravity. The water travels along the fibers of the rope, moving from an area of high concentration, the tank, to an area of low concentration, the dry soil. For the European gardener with a balcony, a small patio, or a series of raised beds, the wick offers a modular freedom. You can have one central, elegant water feature that serves 10 different pots. You no longer need to walk from pot to pot with a heavy jug. The river is invisible, silent, and constant. The forget-me-not security. For many seniors, the greatest anxiety of gardening is the weekend away. We fear our prized tomatoes or delicate hydrangeas will wither the moment we visit our grandchildren. The wick system is your insurance policy. It provides a trickle feed of hydration. Unlike a timer-based system that can glitch or overwater during a rainstorm, the wick is self-regulating. It only delivers water if the soil is dry enough to pull it. It is a passive technology that requires no maintenance, no batteries, and no complex programming. It allows the gardener to be a visitor in their own garden, rather than a prisoner to its schedule. The selection of material. The physics of the fiber. Not all wicks are created equal, and understanding the material science is key to mastering this ancient craft. For the senior gardener, the choice of fiber determines the flow rate. Natural fibers like cotton or wool have incredible initial draw, but they are prone to biological decay. Over a season, soil microbes will eat the cotton, and the river will run dry. This is why we look to modern materials like braided polypropylene or fiberglass cores. These materials mimic the vascular bundles of a giant redwood tree. They are composed of thousands of continuous microfilaments that create a capillary lift capable of moving water over a meter in height. By understanding the siphon effect, you can calibrate your garden. If you have a thirsty crop like pumpkins, you use a thicker wick or multiple strands. For a drought-tolerant herb like lavender, a single thin thread is enough. You are fine-tuning your garden's metabolism with nothing more than a piece of string. The Sub-Irrigated Planter, SIP evolution. We can take the wick system even further by creating wicking beds, a method that combines ancient siphoning with modern ergonomics. Imagine a raised bed with a hidden water reservoir at the very bottom, separated from the soil by a perforated barrier. Wicks, or soil pillars, drop down into this water. This creates a water table that never fluctuates. For a gardener dealing with limited mobility, this is the ultimate triumph. You fill a single fill pipe at the corner of the bed once every 2 weeks. The water rises through the wicks, keeping the soil at a perfect, consistent 15% moisture content. This prevents the shrink-swell cycle of clay soils, which often snaps the tiny root hairs of your plants. Your garden becomes a self-regulating organism, and you become the silent overseer. System 3. The Reverse Siphon Pitcher. The Deep Soak Master. The evolution of the pitcher. The third system is a more sophisticated cousin of the Oya, often found in ancient Middle Eastern agriculture, designed for orchards and larger perennial shrubs. This is the pitcher pipe system. Instead of a single pot, we use a series of buried vertical pipes or deep pitchers connected by a low-pressure line. This is the ancestor of modern drip irrigation, but it is far more robust. While modern drip emitters are notorious for clogging with limescale or debris, the ancient pitcher system uses area porosity. The deep root strategy. When we water from the surface with a hose, we encourage roots to stay near the top of the soil. This makes plants fragile. They become addicted to our daily intervention. If we miss one day, they wilt because their roots haven't explored the depths. The pitcher system delivers water 30 to 40 centimeters below the surface. This forces the plants to grow deep, resilient root systems. In the context of the changing European climate, where heat waves are becoming the new normal, this deep root strategy is the difference between a garden that survives and a garden that perishes. Ergonomics of the central reservoir. For the senior gardener, this system is a masterclass in ergonomics. We place a single large reservoir at the highest point of the garden. This tank can be filled once every 2 weeks using a simple garden hose. Gravity then takes over, distributing the water through the buried pitchers. There is no bending. There is no dragging of hoses. There is no risk of slipping on wet mud. You are managing a utility rather than performing manual labor. You have transformed yourself from a water carrier into a water architect. You are using your mind to solve the problems that your body used to handle with pain. The synthesis. The wisdom of the ancients for the modern body. Why did we forget these things? Perhaps it was the allure of the new. Perhaps we were seduced by the roar of the machine and the convenience of the plastic tap. But as we look at the toll our modern habits have taken on our water tables, on our time, and on our physical health, the old ways begin to look like the only way forward. Losing the ability to garden is one of the greatest fears of aging. We worry that our backs will give out, that our knees will fail, and that the work will simply become too much. But the ancient systems we've explored today prove that gardening doesn't have to be work. It can be an observation. It can be a design. When you bury an Oya, or lay a wick, or install a deep pitcher, you are doing more than just watering a plant. You are making a pact with the laws of nature. You are choosing to work with the earth rather than against it. You are reclaiming your time, your health, and your joy. The ancients knew that the best garden is the one that grows while the gardener is at rest. It is time for us to take our rest. It is time to let the clay, the rope, and the gravity take over the labor, so that we can return to the true purpose of the garden, the quiet, effortless contemplation of life itself.